Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we're here today to discuss Beyond Redemption, chapters 11 through 25. And whoever listened to the first episode, I want to apologize. I didn't realize that when the camera turns off, it stops recording audio. So, sorry, Dan. I didn't know that was going to happen. But we did get about half of what I said. So, but I'm sure it was a bummer. But that was my mistake. So, but as I mentioned, I'm here with Dan and Varsha. Dan, will you kick us off, please? Introduction.
Yeah, I'm Dan, first time reading Beyond Redemption. Just a fan of fantasy, nothing else. Varsha?
Hi, I'm Varsha. I have a YouTube channel called Reading by the Rainy Mountain where I like to talk about my favorite books. This is my first time as well, reading Beyond Redemption. I'm enjoying it so far.
Yes, it's the second time reading it from you, but I read it 2.5 years ago. One of the first fantasy books I read, so it was an interesting choice. For
Interesting.
Yeah. So, want to get your thoughts on it, Dan? What did you think of 11 through 25? What stood out to you?
I don't know. Like, it's getting more interesting because we're getting more into, I guess, the actual storyline of the what do you call it? The kidnapping and what's going to happen. You know, it still feels like there's some stuff we're not privy to, like what Morgan's faults are, I guess, and I don't know what's going to happen. It feels like there's something we're going to see in maybe at the end of his book. There's like, oh, he was planning to do this all along, or to do that, or, you know, that's just a step to do something else. But I don't know yet what it's going to be. But yeah, it's intriguing, for sure.
Varsha, what did you think?
Yeah, a lot happened in these 15 chapters. I think we saw some new characters who were interesting, but also really terrible to read about. And I think what I appreciated about this section, and I think this happened to a certain extent with the previous 10 chapters also, gave me a lot of like sort of things to puzzle out. If things work like this, what would be the fallout? What does this mean? And so on. Mostly because we're trying to figure out what works out of because of people's delusions and what just works in the world outside of it. For instance, I think my favorite bit during these 15 chapters was when Gehin, the Hassebrand, she thinks to herself about how the scientists' experiments are kind of useless because his delusions or assumptions will drive the outcome of the experiments, which I thought was very interesting. Like, even something as objective as the science you do in this world cannot be free of the delusions. So so there's a lot of like philosophical puzzles there if you want to sit down and think about it. I like that.
It's a good point, actually. Yeah, because like he says, the scientist like thinks about all the stuff he did to create like other people's delusions, Geist or whatever, right? I don't remember what the name. It was the K something. Like the guards that he has, right? Like the soldiers that they have. Anyways, and he was like, oh yeah, I can create them by torturing them or doing bad things to them or whatever. But is that actually true? Like, does that mean that always when you do that, but if someone believes that doesn't work, then it will stop working, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Right? But we know that he's not delusional, I guess. He doesn't have any delusions, right, as far as we know.
Right.
But maybe that's not true? How do you check for that?
Yeah. And if you start to think that you have delusions, do you then really have them, right? It is a very recursive and cyclic world, which interestingly, like, for all it feels really difficult to grasp, but it also feels like a very, on steroids version of our world, right? Like, it's, for instance, with the scientist, there are instances where you can make your assumptions a certain way, build your hypothesis, and like not plan your arguments so that you get the outcome you want. Except here, it's probably always true. So yeah, I think it is interesting, and maybe we can find much smaller scale equivalents in our world for most things that we might discuss here. So
Did think it was interesting because we talked last week about locations and not having a lot of detail on locations, and on page 105 it mentions that city-states are abstractions born of delusions. So a city can look lush and green and everything is perfect because it's someone's delusion that's making that a reality.
Right.
So it's like this, like you said, of just like this circle of delusions and belief, and how, and it, also I think in the after death can be another really weird, because if you kill someone, they become your slave basically in the after death, and whoever they killed also comes with them. So then where does it end?
right, yeah. And everybody's fighting for ruling the after death, and it's unclear whether they should even believe it. If you don't believe in the after death, it's possible you don't end up there. Maybe something else happens to you after you die, right? And yet you're fighting for something that comes in the afterlife by being really miserable here.
But probably, I mean, if enough people believe in the after death, it doesn't matter what you think. It's just going to be what other people believe, because, you know.
Right, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know, because we've seen both ways, right? Sort of.
Yeah. and I think it is explicitly addressed in the text too. Like someone thinks to themselves that I don't believe this, but I think because everyone else believes, I will end up in some situation that I think they don't like, or I forget which. But yeah, so yeah, like there's just a lot of like puzzles that you can like sit down and think about for hours if you want.
And also, when we started off recording this, both of you mentioned that we're starting to get into the story now, and it kind of dawned on me that we've learned a lot about how the world works in the magic system and like the world building in a pretty short period of time. That we've gotten a lot of, and not that we fully grasp it yet, but we have gotten a lot of background on like the magic system, delusion system.
Delusion system. I like that.
I don't know.
I really like the opening. What is this called? Epigraph. I sometimes accidentally call it epitaph. But I really like the opening of that chapter 11. In just those few lines, I think it tells us almost everything about the way the world works, right? It says febrile minds dream monsters, there are monsters, the Hasselbrand dreams fire, there is fire, and so on, about a bunch of different Gefargeist powers. No, the other thing. Gefargeist is people who, they are a specific type of delusionists.
Yeah. I wonder when what was the first series that started putting like epigraphs at the beginning of chapters, because now it's pretty common that you see it in like fair number, but it didn't used to be, because I remember reading, like, if you read books from like the 80s or 70s or whatever, you never see that. I wonder what
was it Dune? I know Steven Erikson regularly says Dune as his inspiration for that structure.
I'm trying to remember if I think Dune does. Yeah, Dune does have them at the beginning. Yeah. And Dune was hugely influential, so I wonder if that was the first one. Actually, it's a good point. Dune came out in the 70s,
60s.
I don't remember.
I think
A while ago.
60s.
A while ago, yeah.
I like that answer.
Yeah, but it's a nice way of giving more lore about the world while being in character, sort of, and without having exposition from someone. Yeah.
And I think it adds a great deal of depth. when I see these epigraphs, I feel like the author has spent a lot of time building the world, because you have to think about the historians and philosophers and whoever you're quoting here, what they would have said. So you're sort of creating additional characters, additional history for the world. It's a lot more world with the epigraphs, in my opinion.
And Dune is 1965, just for the record. Yeah. Wow.
Very old.
Yeah.
But it was later, yeah. Yeah, and I think it's actually must be pretty hard to write them, because you have to write as someone who is known to be smart in that world, or like writes very well. It's like the same issue as I don't know if any of you played Dungeons and Dragons or any role-playing game, right? If you play as a super smart character or someone that speaks very well or something, and you're like, how do I'm not that smart in real life. How do I make my character like that? Or I think I was reading also like Baker, right? He was when he was writing for all the philosophy and stuff like that his characters say. He's like, I'm trying to write stuff for people which should be way smarter than me. How do I do that? He had to rewrite it so many times until it felt right. It must be pretty hard.
Yeah. Brandon Sanderson has a video on the subject. I haven't watched it yet, but the title is Writing Characters Smarter Than You.
Oh, wow. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, because I guess if you're like, oh, I want to write something that the Shakespeare of this world would have written. I'm like, but I'm not Shakespeare. I couldn't write the Shakespeare of this world.
Yeah. Yeah, smarter or
Very
has talent or knowledge that you don't have. Yeah, that is interesting. I suppose a lot of it boils down to doing research the same way you would for the rest of your story, but also you have to change tones and characters. And, yeah.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. Well, that's one of the advantages, I think, of fantasy, because you don't have to do research in what is actually reasonable. Well, if you're writing a historical novel, and because I started thinking about it at some point, I'm like, if I were to write a novel like set in something like that, how would I know how people behaved, what they did to, I don't know, just even mundane things, right? How did people get food or cultivate things or make candles or, anything? Right?
Yeah.
I guess the concern
with all the little things. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess I guess the concern with building a fantasy world is to write yourself into a corner, because if you kind of don't pay attention to what you're adding, then it could kind of haunt you later, I guess, would be the only concern. Because it's your world, you can do what you want, but you might regret it later if you want to make a decision later down the road.
Like George R.R. Martin did.
Yeah.
Or who's the guy in Name of the Wind?
Patrick Rothfuss.
Yeah, I think he also might have gotten into that problem.
Yeesh.
I think his problem is more the framed narrative aspect of it, right? Because he has this 3-day worth of story.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, he set it up at the beginning, and now he's stuck with it. But I guess in this novel, it's, I wonder what you could be stuck with, because I guess everything is possible based on what characters can believe in, and a lot of crazy stuff already happened.
I guess a bunch of people like us would come by and be like, "This doesn't make any sense,"
Yeah, I mean, I did have a little bit of trouble just with one part, which took me a bit out of it, like the fight scene with the infinite doppelgangers. That, it's not like it's written badly or anything. It's just, for me, when I have characters that just mow through random people with, it seems like not that much trouble. I would feel like you would have to be so much more powerful to be able to fight 50 people at the same time, It just, I didn't believe that part. It just felt very, I don't know, comic book or very movie sort of thing. But that was the only part. Everything else doesn't.
Very Agent Smith esque, I think, like in Matrix kind of thing, where he multiplies himself.
Yeah.
I wonder if the problem for this world is that if you sit down and look very closely at each person's delusions and beliefs and what they think they believe, what they don't, if we find logical inconsistencies. I think there was something I noticed which it seemed like it would belong to our world but not to this world where delusions are a thing. I don't remember off the top of my head what it was, but also then like are logical inconsistencies even a thing in this world? Right? Each person has thoughts to themselves, and you have this division of sane and insane. And so would you then say this world allows anything and everything to happen? There are no bounds. Well, the only bound is that you go insane yourself, and you lose so much control that you will destroy yourself. But other than that, anything goes in the realm of possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what kind of Koenig is battling with, right? His doppels, and they're starting to become too powerful. So it's almost like a race against time that he's trying to convince himself and them that he's in charge, and they're starting to catch on that he's not really in control.
I thought that was a great scene, the one with what was it, like the, I guess, interrogation scene or whatever, when they were planning what to do, and he was calling the assassins, and then like slowly acceptance was like becoming, I guess, starting to control the narrative of what was happening. I thought that was really interesting because I guess he doesn't notice, I guess, because it's just part of himself, right? So if he naturally goes into a specific state of mind or emotion, then that part of himself will start taking over, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really interesting that people can destroy parts of themselves like that and have Koenig thinks to himself that it hurt more to hurt the scientist than it did to hurt acceptance. Yeah, so it is interesting. Is that a manifestation of self-loathing, perhaps, that you don't mind seeing that part of yourself destroyed? Or I agree, that scene was fantastic and it made me think a lot.
I had this tab on page 116 in the paperback. Abandonment and trepidation were not but manifestations of petty fears. Koenig most desired acceptance. Koenig's self-hatred and desperate need to belong would be his undoing.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Steve, were you able to make any more sense of your tabs this time?
Yes, they make a lot more sense. I have a lot more of them now too. A lot more of them, but
oh, nice.
yeah, but yeah, I did. I started to wonder, like, as the first 10 chapters or so, I thought this isn't too bad. Like, this isn't too dark, and then we meet the slaver, and I think that's mostly what people find disturbing. I think, what he does, especially to children, is, I think, the darkest part of it. What did you both think of the slaver?
I thought it was.
Go ahead.
Sorry, you can go ahead, Varsha, if you want.
Oh, go ahead, Dan. I was kind of waiting for you to go first anyway.
Okay. I really like that character. I thought it was like his interaction with a Hasselbrand and the whole everything that happened and the way he manipulates people was pretty interesting to watch, right? And like in the end, how do I say? Like when we got a bit of his perspective on, on what he was thinking, it's not like, how do I say? It's not like, beyond redemption, I guess. Like, he's not like a completely evil guy, right? He's not good, obviously. But you can see how he has arrived at that point from his history and how he just wants to have, someone, I guess, accept him or love him or something like that, right? And he goes about it in a very twisted way, for sure. But it's, he's not just like an evil guy that likes hurting people, I guess. I don't know. He wants to be able to survive, to keep his delusions at bay, and he wants someone to be his friend or partner or something.
He just needs a hug.
It's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Well, that's what a lot of characters I think need.
Yeah.
I will look for.
Yeah.
If you can't find it.
Yeah, I think there was something in there about the fact that all delusionists have a lot of self-loathing, and that's how they become powerful. So it makes sense. I think slaver is a category of delusion here in this world, right? And apparently there are other slavers as well, except this one's a very big group. And the fact that, what was his name, Bedect, saw the people around the slaver and knew the center for what it was. I think, yeah, it makes sense. I don't think it's this character in particular needs to be judged for that. It's just slavers in general. That's how they operate. And given the fact that delusions can people can start to have delusions from life experiences that hurt them, it makes sense that for slavers, this is the whatever hurt them was probably that they weren't loved sufficiently, and so now they will surround themselves with people whom they can convince themselves like them or love them, that they need them. So I guess that is my long-winded way of saying I agree with you, Dan, that yeah, we can understand where he's at. But in terms of just like reading about this character and the group, it was very difficult for me for sure. The stuff with the children and everyone is it's pretty dark, yes, I agree, but also yeah, I think what I said last time is a lot of disgusting descriptions that they are effective though. They are effective. I don't know, but yes, they were difficult to read for that reason.
For sure. I wonder is there a difference between like Slaver and the Gefargeist? Because they're both like manipulating and just with charisma and convincing people. So what's the difference? Just how we treat them?
Yeah, I wonder about that too. Is a slaver just a very powerful Gefargeist? But if they are, then like, isn't Koenig at that level, or is he choosing not to use his powers that way?
Yeah, it seems the powers were pretty similar. Like when the scientist, for example, was with Koenig, he was like, "Oh, I need to be careful because the closer I am, the more convincing he is, I guess." But it seemed different than the slaver one, maybe? I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know. The slaver one seemed more like concentrated just around him. The Koenig seems a bit more widespread, but that's maybe how you apply the power. I don't know.
Yeah.
Almost like a radius of like influence, like a, you know, if you the closer you get. And then I did love that he would come up to the city gates and they would have that, you know, they would be ready for a fight, and then he would talk to them and they would open the gates and they would come and offer sacrifices, bow to him. So he kind of like apologize. So I thought that was really just such a cool, I mean, terrifying. But.
Yeah. It also sounded like based on what's his name, the scientist, his research, that there is a radius around all delusionists. I keep calling them that. I don't know what the right name is, but anyway, around all the people who have delusions, there is a radius apparently. Even Koenig has a radius of influence, right? But what happens within that radius seems to be different for the slaver and Gefargeist. So yeah, it is interesting, I think, but I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, who knows?
I thought the people around the slaver, they all seemed to understand that they were trapped, but they couldn't escape it. whereas with the Gefargeist, often I think they don't really know that they are being manipulated. They have doubts and they question themselves afterwards, but they could believe that things that are suggested to them by the Gefargeist are their ideas. But with the slaver, it seems like they could become aware, but they're still trapped.
So maybe it's just the Gefargeist is more subtle in the application of that power.
Possibly.
Yeah, but I mean, the scientist did realize that he was being manipulated, but he was also a scientist, so maybe he's more aware than other people. I don't know. Yeah, but you're right. Like the slavers one, it seemed like others were aware, maybe a bit, of what was going on. Like the Hasselbrand for sure was aware. The other ones maybe too.
The shaman was, and
yeah.
I think, was it Reagan or Rogan? He even talked about, because he would keep the storm going to protect the Hasselbrand, and he even said, like, I wanted to leave, but I couldn't. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Like, I could have just left, but I didn't. So it's almost like, they are aware, but they just can't help themselves.
Yeah, that's probably, I feel that's worse than just thinking, being deluded that you're following someone by your own will.
Yeah.
At least that way you feel better about, what's going on. Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind
and
of
I'd rather be Konig's servant than the slaver's servant, I think. Not that he treats them super well, but,
better than
Slaver
does,
But I mean, he didn't have problem just deafening the assassins in a second, right? So.
Yeah. Okay. I had a question about that. That deafening the assassins did not seem to be within the scope of any of the powers that Koenig had demonstrated up to then. So is this a new delusion that he has, or is it a very powerful Gefargeist power to... So what happened there was he didn't convince them that they are deaf and that's why they can't hear. He said, I believe that you're not, that you are deaf, that's why you're deaf now. Which is not really manipulation, right? Is it?
Could be.
I guess he's convincing that they are deaf, and they kind of like he's hypnotizing them, almost.
Yeah.
Into believing something. It just becomes real because they believe it.
So did we sort of get to the root of how a Gefargeist power works? That they believe, for instance, Victic believes that he's the greatest swordsman, so he is? Is that how that works? It's not manipulating others into believing it? Because so far it felt like a Gefargeist power is that they can manipulate the belief of others.
Yeah.
But in this instance, it's making something come true by the power of their own belief.
Maybe it's just because... Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I think you were going to say what I was going to say, so please go.
Yeah. It just seems like it's almost like a combination. I think he wants people. He wants the attention. He wants people to believe that he's the greatest swordsman. It's not. He believes it, but he wants other people to believe it too. So he believes it. So he's trying to make it true by making other people believe it, and it just becomes real because they believe, and he wants the attention more than. So I guess it's like a different form of manipulation. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he also says, I am the greatest swordsman, I believe I am the greatest swordsman, right? To other people, so that they believe. But he probably is not that sure, it seems, when he's talking, but he actually, he doesn't care, actually. He probably doesn't care what he thinks. It's just, he knows that it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
But if you act confident, then people will believe you.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I guess we did learn something else from the slaver with the stew and the body parts, that you can absorb other people, and it won't add to your delusions. The way for him to keep his delusions at bay, so he can not get too powerful. So these people get chopped up and he eats their organs, ensures with the Hasselbrand, as a way for them to, possibly. I guess he told her he was, but so.
Yeah. Well, again, if he believes it, it's probably going to happen, right? I guess.
Right.
I mean, it seems like there's no limit, because like we've seen like other people which are. I still don't understand the delusions of the people which are like dead, but they're not dead. You know, because they're dead. You know, there's no organs or other things. Like they're 100% dead, but they're still there. So, do they? I don't understand exactly what their delusion is, because it's not like that they don't believe they're dead, right? It's something to do with self-loathing and something like that, right?
Mm.
But yeah, like it seems like you can even cheat death, right? If you have some sort of delusion, right?
Or is it that they are alive-ish, but they believe that they are dead, so they look dead, but they aren't actually dead?
Could be.
Kind of wonder if there's like a necromancer type of delusion that's keeping them around, if that's exists. On page one, I'm sorry, Barsha.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just mentioning on page 128, eat a man's soul and you gain his strength of spirit. You ingest a small measure of his sanity to balance your own lack. So the whole stew thing.
Yeah. So that was disturbing, yes. But once you get past that, what's her name? Gehian. She apparently has doubts about it, and so it doesn't seem to work for her, or at least it wasn't enough to stop her from going insane enough to destroy an entire city, right? Or town. So does that also only work if you believe it? And since the parallel way that we're reading about, which is Koenig draining, wanting Morgan to ascend so that he can keep his own insanity at bay, is that also only because Koenig believes that to be true?
I guess he's hoping so. He's betting everything on that because he's running out of time.
Yeah. Is hope the same as belief?
It seems like he almost doubts. He almost like questions it sometimes. Like, kind of like he hopes it will work because it hasn't been done before yet.
He doesn't sound super sure about it.
Yeah. He's gotten into really risky territory now. He's just hoping that he can kill whoever kills Morgan and therefore gain ascendancy on them. It's just like I don't think you can trust anyone that much in this world, or trust your own abilities to do that.
I didn't expect him to just tell him or just kill him.
Yeah. Why can't he just go with them and be the one to kill them? Does he need to be in that town for some reason?
Probably because it's dangerous. I guess if he's out in the open, that he'll be sought after. But I did like when he mentions, he tells them, if you see him, kill him immediately, then kill the people who kidnapped him. And he says, well, I think he mentions something like, I'll have to kill the person who kills him, but we'll discuss that later. That'll be detailed for I won't mention that right now.
Yeah. I'll just pretend you'll be rewarded when you come back, and the reward is, you get to serve me in the after death.
Yeah. You win.
Yeah. I don't know. The plan seems more and more, I don't know how to say, it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. I mean, even before I was like, if he kills it, is it that really what's going to happen? It seemed kind of doubtful. You know? But now, I don't know.
He's betting on it, I guess.
I feel, it feels to me like the only person with a plan here or that knows what they're doing might be Morgan, I think.
Yeah.
He seems the most in control of what's actually happening, sort of. Because I think if he didn't want to go with them, he probably would have been able to not go with them, right? Seems pretty powerful.
Do you think he knows what's happening, or do you think he's being tricked by them? Because I think they mentioned, like, these people were trying to hurt you, we're here to save you. Or do you think he's going along just waiting for the right time?
Yeah, I don't know. It felt at points that he must have known, but maybe not.
The kid seems extremely all-knowing, so what I'm reading into it is he's playing along for the moment because it suits him, but yeah, it feels like
he's very naive in certain areas, maybe.
Yeah.
But he probably has like I assume he has like almost all the delusions, so he probably has like mirror's delusion too. If you wanted to see what happened in reality, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
We do get a glimpse that he may even see the future, right? At one point.
Which part? Sorry, maybe I missed that.
Let's see. On 225, let me see.
Yeah, I guess of all the delusions, we haven't seen like a divination one yet, which seems also one bit should be there. Some sort of prophet, I guess.
I would think so.
But that would give all sorts of, like, you're already dealing with recursion with belief, and you have to deal with sort of time travel and causation, issues. That might be a bit too complicated.
It mentions on 225, let's see, Morgan watched as the bloody water swirled, showing glimpses of the future. Bedecked, whom he just pulled from the gates of the afterdeath, would again lie dying in a few short days. Next time Morgan would not save him, Bedecked would be without his friends. Morgan wondered at this.
Wasn't being able to tell the future part of a mirrorist's delusion?
Was it?
I thought so. Didn't the mirrorist that the scientist killed, wasn't he able to show briefly towards the end the future where the three are headed with Morgan?
Oh, that's right.
And I thought in the mirrorist that Gahian went to see at the other city, she also showed her a bit of future, I thought.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's an interesting point. If you're a really powerful mirrorist, or if there is a prophetic delusion, can you make that happen? Yeah.
Or you can just see what's going to happen, and you have no influence.
With the mirrorist, I was confused. I remember that being a part that I was confused about during the first read. And this one, I wondered, is it the figures in the mirror? Did they overhear something? Did they know because they overheard the discussion when they kidnapped Morgan?
Yeah.
Or do they know in some other way that what was going to happen, and that's why they were communicating with Acceptance, and that's why Acceptance knew, because they were conspiring. But I wasn't sure about that.
Is it Koenig's mirrorist delusion that can because the scientist wonders if Koenig's mirrorist delusion is powerful enough that he can figure out what happened by himself, right? So is it that the mirror images know what happened, but they don't communicate it to Koenig yet?
I think they're working with Acceptance for some. I'm not quite sure why they're working with Acceptance and not with Koenig.
Because I think they want to take over Koenig, right? They want to be the ones in charge, I guess.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But now that I think about it, I think actually maybe it's a very far-fetched theory. Maybe what defines like a god or something is the ability to use different delusions and combine them together. Like, for example, if you're a mirrorist and you can see the future and you can see everything changing, and you're also a Geffergeist, and you apply your Geffergeist power to your illusions you see within the mirror, you can make things happen, maybe,
Mm.
everywhere in the past, future, whatever, and that's what makes like a god. Maybe.
Mm.
It's still cool. So neat.
I don't know. Could be.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen anyone being able to apply them together or anything, just doing them separately, and we don't have too much control over
Mm.
To that
the
point,
secondary one.
There's another tab I had about on 160. Morgan says, "A god doesn't require delusion or insanity because his worshippers suffer for him. Yet in a way, he has all of their delusions." So
Yeah.
you might be onto something there.
Maybe. Yeah. When I read that, I just thought it was like the beliefs of everyone just sort of coalesced into him.
Mm.
Yeah. I guess, maybe, who knows, maybe if the people believe enough, they can make him believe into what the people believe, or it's the other way around. So,
Does this mean that Morgan is already a god, that he has ascended?
oh,
Because if a god has that ability and Morgan has demonstrated the ability.
I don't know. 1 second.
Yeah, it's and then I wonder too, in this world, I wonder how many, because we have these characters that we're focused on with their delusions, but how many people actually are powerful enough to influence the people around them? Like, how many people are in this world, and how many people that can, like, how many con eggs are there in this world, or how many slavers are there? I know we focus a lot on them, but are they rare or are they common?
Yeah, you're right. I guess our perspective is a bit screwed by the fact that we're just seeing their perspective. We're not. Most people, I assume, it seems most people are just normal, right?
Yeah.
From what we've seen, I think.
Kind of like mini gods or like mini bosses everywhere that influence their area, and there's different areas you go to, and there's different people ruling certain areas because of their delusions. Kind of, the rest of us are just kind of along for the ride, I guess.
Feels a bit Dark Souls, a bit that sort of universe. I think most people are just normal people, unfortunately for them.
And I guess having like a location or like a city that doesn't have someone powerful, then you're at the mercy of someone like the slaver who can come around and kind of. So I guess having one is it better than not having someone to kind of ward them off? I don't know.
I mean, it seems like the cities of the cult, they're doing pretty well. Like, it seems pretty luscious and nice cities, and people seem to be much happier than in the other shitty town that we started in.
Yeah.
So I think you would. Yeah, and they also describe it like, oh, I was in this town 5 years ago or something, and it looked terrible. It looked super poor, and there was nothing, and now it's beautiful.
Yeah. Bedek seems pretty shocked at how much change happened in the town, and he concludes from there that there's a very powerful Gefahrgeist at the center of it. And he's a man who's been around quite a bit, it seems like. So it makes sense, I think, to conclude that there aren't that many powerful delusionists.
Yeah. Do you think there's going to be, talking about the three, normal people, I guess? Not really, but. Do you think there's going to be some revelation of something in their past which is going to affect the story? Because we did get some glimpses into their past, right? Especially, what is his name? The swordsman.
Victic?
He talked about leaving his city and his wife and his son, and why that happened and all this sort of stuff. But I wonder if there's going to be some revelation or like the warrior guy in the past, he was fighting here or there, and I don't know, it comes back up again, someone from his past. I don't know. At some point it felt like it was setting up for that in certain parts for the future, but I don't know.
It felt to me that what it was setting up for, the discussion of his history, that was that he'd be affectionate towards Morgan, or I think he has a thought, if I remember correctly, that it feels silly or not worthy to sell him back for ransom, that he wants to do more with the boy, like he wants to help him ascend, or I don't remember what it was that Victor thinks to himself, but it's something to the effect that he wants to protect the boy and help him out. And that I think, if I read it correctly, partly because of Morgan himself, but also because he thought back and remembered his boy, and so wanted to protect this boy. I thought that might be the extent of how his background helps, but yeah, we'll see. It seems that their histories are affecting how they behave with each other. I don't know if it doesn't seem to me yet that it will come back to play a bigger role in the story. It might just affect behaviors more than anything else.
Who knows? Do you think that all that was just Morgan subtly manipulating them? Maybe?
I did not think of that, but seems like a distinct possibility.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think that trio is much needed comedic relief. I mean, that black dark humor is, I think it fits well. And Varshi mentioned that you can't read too much because it's so it's bleak. I think it needs something like the humor to line it up a little bit for most people, I think.
Yeah. I agree that I am always like the breaks with the three of them, and it seems like we are adding some depth to their characters. Bedekt had a wife whom he misses very much now, it seems like, and is very sentimental about, which is nice because it feels like so far everyone we meet in this world is self-serving and doesn't care, it doesn't have any relationships. But yeah, and it seems like Victor also, to a certain extent, regrets leaving his wife and son. And most importantly, yes, on the face of it, they all would happily betray each other, but no, they're looking out for each other, however reluctantly or grudgingly it is. I'm like, yeah, okay, there is some hope. It is my delusion that there's hope in this world.
If you believe it, then it might happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would want these guys both to be the guys that end up winning. I don't know. I don't know who I want to end up winning. Maybe Morgan. Morgan seems the most maybe that wants to make things nice and not everything terrible. Maybe, but I don't know what his plans are. So
Morgan feels like one of those kids they make horror movies about, that he's just going to turn around and terrify you.
Yeah, pretty.
Could be. I mean,
just like that.
I hope that would be pretty interesting. Yeah, because I'm actually like looking forward to, I don't know, some parts about the afterlife or more like cosmic parts or whatever. Because that, I don't know, at this point, none of the, how do I say, like the real life horrors, sort of, they don't shock me that much. You know, I've read a lot of books, other similar things, sort of, but also like the more, between very quotes, like scary stuff, the more impactful stuff for me is like sort of existential horror. So again, what happens to your soul, what happens, with the gods and all that sort of stuff. So that's what I'm hoping will be the very dark part for me personally.
We read the second apocalypse, so
Yeah,
yeah.
because I've been looking for something like that, because that scratched my itch of existential horror and despair. I was looking for in a series, and I've been searching for something similar.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Up to now, this feels a lot like to me. It feels a lot like when I was reading what was it, Prince of Thorns, I think, Mark Lawrence book. It's got a bit of a similar sort of style, I guess, or just in my mind, I'm imagining it sort of similar world or atmosphere. I don't know if those books cropped in your mind while reading this or not, really.
I haven't read that one yet.
I haven't read either.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. They're pretty good. I enjoy them. I think he's written a couple of series, but I've only read like one, I think.
I've been meaning to for a while. I will get to it eventually.
Eventually.
Too many books to read.
Definitely. We talked a little bit last week about communication being manipulation, and a little bit more on that in these chapters, but one of them was manipulating the same was like herding sheep. It took a lot of effort, but if you focused on one sheep at a time, you'd get nowhere. But you focused on the right sheep, moving in the right direction, all the rest will follow.
Yeah. That feels also sadly relevant to our world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I think that makes sense, because even in our world, like, mass psychology is completely different than individual psychology, right? And different laws apply and stuff like that. And even I remember reading like that while individual people might make wrong guesses for certain things or estimates for, let's say, a certain number. Let's say if you have a certain number of beans in a jar and you have to guess how many, right? Individual people will be super wrong about it, but if you take the average of all the estimates of everyone, it's going to be it's actually be surprisingly precise for some reason.
Interesting.
Doesn't necessarily have to be, but so I think that it's kind of like the wisdom of the masses. But there's a lot of different aspects for which like the having a sufficient number of people changes completely the dynamic of you have a problem. So some of these quotes feel a lot like quotes from our world, just reworked for this.
I think last time we saw Victor was the one who kept saying communication is manipulation. This time, I think Koenig was the one who thought to himself that all communication is manipulation. So I wonder if that is a general sort of base belief in this world, or if it's a belief that Gefargeist hold that any communication that they do is manipulation. I mean, for them it is true, right? But is it a general aspect of the world as well?
There was another quote I wanted to get both of your thoughts on page 240. If communication was manipulation, emotion was a fulcrum on which the leverage was applied.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That one was pretty heavily highlighted in the Kindle book.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it had like 55 highlights or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think that's
seems
very
a lot
true.
of people agree.
Yeah, and probably now that I think about it, I guess if they think that all communication is manipulation, that would probably make it very hard for them to trust people or have any emotional connection with people or anything like that. You would feel.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I was thinking that might be true for our world where emotions matter, but here what emotions are you manipulating? It doesn't feel like anyone has like safe emotions that you can manipulate. It's mostly, oh, am I being manipulated? At least all the characters we've met so far, they are not trusting at all. So you have to like really get to the bottom of the pile to manipulate any emotions, right? So how does
But I
that
think
even work?
you are able to manipulate people by using their like most powerful emotions. Like for example, the Hasselbrand, right? By manipulating her need of acceptance, right?
Yeah.
Then you can control her that way, I guess.
So whatever the root is of their primary delusion, you can manipulate that, and you can maybe make a good guess about why they're. Although the Hasselbrand is interesting about what would have caused her primary delusion, or like the chief emotion seems to be self-loathing, so I suppose you manipulate that.
Yeah, we did get like a background of her story, which yeah, and like again, that part was pretty dark.
Yeah.
Because it also felt like, it's not just a fancy story like other sort of things. It's just like, well, I could see this written in a memoir in our world, I guess. Not the magic parts, but, the other abuse parts. So, but yeah, I guess like even then, her emotion, her trauma was all about, I guess, acceptance, right? Because I think even she told her where even when she was away for like a year or something, she left home and when she came back, it was like they didn't care. It's like, oh, you're back, okay, cool.
Yeah.
It was
And it wasn't a whole lot of text devoted to that, but it did have an impact on I just felt like it was enough to convey what happened to her, but it didn't dwell on it. Didn't it was enough. It was just told us what happened, but it didn't spend too much time where it became kind of like for shock value, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's better because if you want, you can read, like you don't have to explicitly say everything, and a lot of time it's more powerful for readers to extract the meaning and fill in the blanks than saying everything, right? Plus, if it's a well-written passage or whatever, you don't need to spoil it by writing more, I guess. You just need to. People can, you can go back and reread it. Sometimes I go back and like reread the passage if I think it's important, if I liked it or whatever, right? Yeah, you're right. Sometimes authors can indulge a bit too much in certain parts that they think are really good or whatever.
Yeah.
It kind of loses its weight a little bit. Like you said, it's kind of like in a movie when they show you the monster over and over again, instead of just you fill it in the blanks is worse than what they can ever think of because it's in your own mind, and so more of an impact.
True. Yeah, and everyone is going to fill it in with whatever they think is the worst thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess and the Hasselbrand thinks she wants to burn everything. She wants to burn everything down. So we'll find out. I'm not quite sure at the end of chapter 25 if she burned everything or if she just burned the people who needed to be burned, or like if everyone around her is burned.
I thought she herself got set on fire. She burnt everyone around the slaver, except the slaver, and then she caught fire. She ignited with concussive force. I thought she exploded. I don't know if that's true, but I thought she exploded.
I wonder if she did. Does that mean that she died, or does that mean that she just burned everything and that's like part of her power?
I think she exploded and is in pieces all over the floor around the
Oh, really? Okay. Maybe. I don't know.
I guess we'll find out pretty soon.
Yeah. I don't know. She ignited with concussive force, and I thought this was because of the sun coming out suddenly. I don't know if it's because of the fire that she was setting. That's why I'm going on about how she probably exploded.
I just read
okay.
it as, when a fire just starts immediately, just feels like it's exploding. That's how I read it, but again, I don't know. Could be.
Yeah.
You could be right.
And I love the scene of abandonment getting dragged into the mirror. That was really cool.
Yes. That was really cool. I kind of forgotten the trap that Acceptance had laid out for him. So when it happened, it was, oh yeah, you were planning that. But it was really cool to read it happen. I kind of want Acceptance to win over Koenig. Just to keep things interesting. Or maybe trepidation will take over.
Yeah, I guess if they win, do we just replace him, or does he just die? I assume they will replace him.
Yeah, I thought Koenig will become one of the Doppels, right? Or is it like with the split personality one, where if Koenig dies, he's the original, so they all die?
I think he would replace him. I think.
I guess. I don't know, but that's the question of, like, if I have, like, 4 clones and I die, do I actually die? Does my consciousness go to another clone? Does, maybe not, but my clone has my same memories, so technically it's the same person, so it's, it feels a bit similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they are his delusion, right? So if he dies, do they still exist?
They are his delusion.
So does he need to survive? Do they need him to live? I don't know.
I don't know. But I thought was there a part before where they said something about mirrorist and, like, they're being dragged to the mirror and replaced by one of the images?
In the mirror world?
Yeah. I think.
Yeah, he did think something like that to himself. Oh, I changed my mind. I want the mirror thingies to win.
Yeah, the mirror images seem pretty useful most of the time. They seem very helpful. So.
To Acceptance, but they also have their own agenda apparently. I'm mostly curious about what they even want. Acceptance just wants to be the ruling Koenig. What do the mirror images want? Can they even... I guess they can get out because they were able to partially come out to pull abandonment in.
Yeah. I don't know, but it feels more like they're together. It's not just one guy. It's a bunch of people helping each other. So it feels better about wanting them to win. It's like a family or something.
Well, that's how Koenig gets true acceptance by...
Having a family unit. I kept thinking of, like, Dr. Manhattan with all his, images, like his duplicates walking around doing things.
I'm gonna nod like I know what you're talking about.
You haven't read Watchmen or seen Watchmen? Oh.
It's pretty good.
That's good stuff.
I should, yeah.
Yeah.
Is anything else you guys can think of?
I think we touched on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So for next week, we'll be reading chapters 26 through 35. So we'll be stopping at 36, so not reading 36. So, and then we'll the next 2 weeks, so we'll finish that off. So cool. Well, thank you guys for coming by. Dan, tell us where people can find you. I love you two have the shortest and sweetest outros ever. So it's.
I mean, it's easy. There's literally nothing to talk about, so without divulging private information, which is not publicly available.
Well, we are going to show up at your front door one of these days and be like, "You said we can come by."
Well, if you figure out where I live, sure. I live in Vancouver, but it's a pretty big city, so
just knock on doors until we find you.
Yeah, exactly. maybe just find my LinkedIn and find my company and then ask my boss and then he tells you.
Sounds like a lot of trouble. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, but if you're
Knocking's
stalking me
easier.
and you're listening to this, that's how I would do it. But anyways, what we're doing? Oh yeah, outros. Yeah, if you want to get in contact with me for some reason, you think my ideas are stupid, just message me on Patreon forum. I'll
We're
respond.
talking about AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Varsha?
The page chewing forum, of course, and also my YouTube channel, Reading by the Rainy Mountain.
Yeah. Lots of reads coming on Varsha's channel, so stay tuned.
Very
Lots of
busy.
stuff. Pretty busy. So thanks again, and we'll see everyone next week for chapters 26 through 35.
Yeah.
See you then.
See ya.
Bye guys.
Bye.